Listener, thank you for having me.
There are so many things to talk to you about this morning. But first, you'll be in Parliament tomorrow and be sitting right there in Parliament when the President delivers the State of the Nation's address. First of all, what are your expectations?
Let me extend warm regards to all distinguished listeners of Radio Gold. To be very honest with you, like many Ghanaians, I don't have any hope that there will be anything inspiring, that there will be anything refreshing, that there will be anything meaningful. Look, the president has had 7 years to change our fortunes. Rather, he has sent us back. Ghana has retrogressed. Check every indicator. Every indicator. When the president was taking office on the 7th of January 2017, this was not the state of the Ghanaian economy. We had an economy that was on a very sound footing. We could pay our creditors. We were not downgraded to junk status by Fitch, Moody's, Standard & Poor's. We were never carrying out a financial restructuring program, financial haircuts, where even pensioner bondholders cannot receive their life savings, money that they themselves have worked for. When this president was taking over, this country was respected in the Committee of Nations. Everybody knew that Ghana was credit-worthy. If you did any transaction with us, Ghana can pay. Ghana will not come defaulting. This is the first time in living memory that Ghana has defaulted on its loans, that we have been shut out of the international financial market. You come to education, it's in total disarray. I mean, look at the state of our schools. No investment in basic education. And even the free SHS program is a total fiasco. Children are preparing to write BEC any moment from now. They haven't seen textbooks for the new curriculum which this government introduced almost 5 years ago. Take the health sector. As I speak to you, key equipment needed in our hospitals are not available. Go to 37. They don't have a functioning MRI, a functioning CT scan. Same at Rich. Recently, Comfornochi doctors warned that in 2016 they had 8 functioning machines for dialysis. Now they have 1.5. Only one, and another one which is always breaking down. Government has not replaced the broken down dialysis machines. It's the same at Kolebu. It's the same at Rich. Across the country. So I don't know of any sector where the president can tell us that the opportunity, the privilege that the Ghanaian people gave him to come and be president, it has been worth our while. It's been total waste of our time, total retrogression, and I don't see what magic the president can perform through a speech, which is a message on the state of the nation tomorrow. So we will be going because as parliamentarians, we have to go to parliament. We don't have to be absent. And that's really the only reason we will be there. Not because we have any hope or we expect anything inspiring from this president.
Then what value really does the State of the Nation's address hold for us as Ghanaians if we cannot, based on that, tell ourselves, one, where we are, two, where we'll be taken to over at least the few months that are left in his presidency?
It's an important question you have asked. That is why some of us have said that perhaps the time has come that a template should be provided. Parliament should send a template to, because you are going to hear the president pick and choose rattle on and on about things that don't really matter to the people. He will gloss over all the mess, the chaos, the corruption scandals that he has been at the center of. You're not going to hear him talk about those things and who he's holding responsible, who is being prosecuted, who must be made to account for the billions of cedis that we have lost to these scandals, which have been confirmed by the Auditor General. He's not going to talk about that. When he comes to talk about roads, he will not talk about the latest damning Auditor General's report on cocoa roads, for example, that has revealed that when they budgeted 1.31 billion, 1.3 billion, they ended up spending 13 billion. And what is worse, the 13 billion they spent, 87% of the contracts were non-competitive. They did not go through a competitive tender process. It was single source. And the vice president's brother was at the center. In one day, he was called to come for 2 contracts, valued at 82 million Ghana cedis, single source. And these are the people who, as I speak to you, are persecuting Dr. Opuni for nothing near what they are doing at Cocoa Board. These are the people who said that when they come, the era of single source contracts will be a thing of the past. President Akufo-Addo promised that. I expect that in this message on the State of the Nation, he will tell us what he has done about that promise. The promise to end single source contracts. Why has it become worse? That 87% of contracts at Cocoa Board are single source. We've never seen that in our country. And this is the Auditor General revealing that. Not NDC doing an analysis. The Auditor General. I expect the President to tell us what happened to his promise that they will move us from taxation to production. His promise that they will transform Ghana in 18 months. His promise that there will be so many jobs that we have to even import people to Ghana to work. So, really, you're going to hear the President avoid all the important issues, skirt around them, distort and he's noted for that. The last time he came to Parliament to claim that they have constructed more roads than all our governments put together. And the figures that he presented to us, it is like traveling from here to China, the distance, covering that distance. And nobody could see the roads. When we were all screaming, he said we should open our eyes. He rather was taunting us that our eyes are closed. We should open them and we'll see the roads that can take us from Ghana to China. So it's really going to be a waste of everybody's time. And to the extent that there is no template, because the Constitution only provides that at the beginning of the session of Parliament, the President must come and present a message on the state of the nation. So one will have expected that it will be a very, honest and empirical report. It should be really an account of the reality, what is happening on the ground. But sadly, you can't expect that from this president.
I see. Interestingly, I haven't heard you mention anything about the National Cathedral, which we intend to commission on 6th March. Are you expecting to hear something about it? Because, of course, I have played this voice that I think it's something he said at the Pentecost Center, the center they built, I think, at Kaswa.
Yes.
That he said in Chik, Cathedral no Ebesi, that he was going to build the cathedral no matter what.
Yes.
And Mr. Kenofuyata was the one who said the date for the commissioning. That's supposed to be this 6th March. Do you expect to hear anything about it at all?
You remember that those were times they were attacking me, taking a dig at me. You remember in that speech he described some of us as Sambalat and Tobias, and that we are the Antichrist. We don't want a cathedral built for God. I remember those days emphasizing that, look, we are all Christians. If you want to build a cathedral for God, this is the project that must be so transparent, must be so clean, must be so pure. But this one is not the usual, your single source, dirty deals that you have done all over the place, like I was talking about a few minutes ago at Kokobot. This one is God, though. We say that we want to build a holy sanctuary for God. This is one that should have been so squeaky clean, where you start on the basis of truth. You don't tell us that you are not going to use public funds. It will be a private initiative. All the way even to the Supreme Court. When a Ghanaian citizen, James Kwabena Bonfe, went to the Supreme Court and said that, look, this is dangerous, it will open the floodgates. What if Muslims demand a national mosque? What if traditionalists demand a national shrine? Our Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, told the eminent jurists, the apex court of the land, looked in the faces of all these respected judges and said, oh, don't mind James Kwabena Bonfe. He is misleading you. We are not going to use public funds. Look at what they did to these priests. They met them, put them together in a board, and lied to them that they are not going to use public funds. To the extent that some of them went public. Archbishop Duncan Williams preached a major sermon, which is still online, and said that all those criticizing the project should back off because they are not using taxes. They have been assured by the president that taxpayer funds will not be used. Only for me to intercept tons of documents that apparently on the blind side of everybody, the blind side of Parliament, the blind side of the Supreme Court, the blind side of these respected clergymen, they are actually using taxpayer funds. First withdrawal, 142 million cedis. Another one, 45 million. Then there was 100 million. Then 130 million to David Ajayi. It has now emerged, thanks to the vote of censure committee hearings, that a staggering $58 million of taxpayer funds was used to construct what is now described as the world's most expensive pit. But don't be surprised that all you have is a pit, and this project has been abandoned 2 years on, because they did not intend to glorify the Creator. It was all about a money laundering scheme, a looting scheme, a create, loot, and share agenda. So you have a situation where David Ajayi alone is keeping 130 million. It hasn't happened in the industry. It hasn't happened anywhere. Carrie Summers, another crook who, after receiving his $6 million, has stayed away from Ghana. He presented himself as the CA of the Nehemiah Group. When I went to the address he provided, it turned out to be a ramshackle coffee warehouse. So this was not a project to glorify God. It was not about building for God. It was not about creating a manger for Jesus Christ, as Dr. Baumia's latest campaign manager is saying, the Reverend Joyce Aye. So this says much. I am not surprised that they will miss the deadline terribly. I am not surprised that there can be no commissioning, because 6 March is just next week, just a few days from now. Perhaps we will have to organize a commissioning for the president. And I don't expect the president to even talk about this. If you have noticed, for some time now, after that, oh, Yebesi, we will build it, don't mind them, the Sambalat and Tobias, he has stayed clear of the matter. And that's the thing about this president. When he's exposed, when his schemes become unraveled, then he just walks away. He will not apologize. He will not take steps to retrieve our monies. Look at what Bishop Dark wrote when he was resigning in his resignation letter. He said that he's so embarrassed that he served on a board, which by the time he was resigning, they had spent $30 million, and all he sees is a pit. He has built bigger churches, mega churches, for far less. So he can't understand what is going on. So he left. Read Archbishop Duncan Williams and Reverend Isud Annabel's resignation letter. They say they have been calling for an audit for years. They were not being listened to. And look, they were not ready to sacrifice their hard-earned reputation on this scam of a project, this grand deception of the Almighty. So I am not surprised that you have majority of the respected clergy on this cathedral board running out, leaving the president, from Pastor Mensa Otabil, Bishop Dake Ward Mills, Archbishop Duncan Williams, Reverend Isud Anaba. Even the president's own attorney general has run for his dear life. So here we are. The chicken has come home to roost. All of these monies which were diverted, clearly they thought that there will be no spotlight. Someone like me will not gather the courage. And I must say it wasn't easy at the beginning, because they tried to portray some of us as, Antichrist. Once people play the religious card, not many will be rational, not many will go through the facts. But we thank God for just sticking to the facts, sticking to the truth. And as a Vanda, I know that truth stands, and that, as the Bible says, the truth shall always set you free. Now here we are, those of us who were on the side of truth, we have been vindicated. That project has collapsed. There's no way there can be a commissioning. We now have to begin a national debate, and probably you at Radio Gold will have to start that process. Open your phone lines, let your listeners contribute as to the way forward. What do we do to the world's most expensive pits? I certainly will argue that the first thing we must do now is to have a commission of inquiry and make sure that there are retrievers. All those who are keeping our money. Carrie Summers, $6 million, he must return it. David Ajay, 130 million cedis, he must return it. The double identity fraudster, Reverend Kusi Boateng Kwabena Edu Jemfi, which has been confirmed by the courts that he has, questions to answer. The 2.6 million cedis he's keeping, he has to return it. So we must get an exercise in motion to retrieve all of these funds that didn't go into building a cathedral for God. But the debate we must have now is, what do we do with that expensive pit? And it is important for Ghanaians to really let us know what they want. And I want to salute the TUC. The TUC has put together some great proposals that we should be thinking probably about a specialist hospital. That I think will be more pleasing to God than that corruption that was going on in the name of building a cathedral for the Almighty. Then we must also remember that as we have this debate, we must be thinking about how to replace all the properties that have been demolished. Many people forget that it's not just the world's most expensive pit, but in that area stood very magnificent structures. The Judicial Training Institute has been demolished. How do we get one? Now there's no Judicial Training Institute in Ghana. Are we going to accept that we don't need a Judicial Training Institute? Scholarship Secretariat has been demolished. Many people forget that. As we speak, the passport headquarters, it was also demolished. The Mali ambassador's residence, demolished. It has to be replaced. The Comsys IT firm, Waterstone Realty Apartment Complex, they are already in court demanding compensation. Then you have judges' bungalows. We can't keep our judges living in rented accommodation at our cost. It would have been cheaper if they had bungalows. Then don't forget that the deputy commissioner for Shraj, his bungalow was also demolished. So many properties demolished. The destruction was so far-reaching. And as a country, we need a national debate on who pays for all of this destruction and what do we do about all these losses moving forward.
I see. There's so much to ask, but let's move on to one other thing you've been doing today. In fact, you've put out many documents which are letters essentially written to from state agencies. You say there are private companies involved where government is seeking to raise, is it 58 or $48 million as operational expenses for the upcoming All-African Games. What is the issue with that? Because, of course, they will spend money on running the event, and if they can't find it from the state coffers, we have difficulties. Should they not be looking elsewhere for it? What's your main issue with it?
Good. So, first of all, you have to acknowledge that there are laws in this country, and nobody can be a law unto himself. So, Parliament was called upon to approve a budget for the 13th African Games. They told us that all they needed was 100 million cedis. And the goods and services, that's what they will use for their administration expenses, or what they are now calling operational expenses. Then they said they needed 50 million cedis to complete the ongoing infrastructure. So Parliament approved that 150 million cedis. So 100 million for the operational expenses and 50 million to complete the infrastructural works. I am totally shocked that despite they requesting 100 million cedis, which has been approved by Parliament, they have gone to create a new amount that they say they need, which has been approved by the president, in ways that undermines the authority of Parliament and violates our laws. So what they have done is to say that they no longer need 100 million cedis, but they need 602 million cedis. 6 times what was approved by Parliament, what they said they needed a few weeks ago. Remember, this budget was approved in December. It was a few weeks ago. It was about 2 months ago. So the $48 million is alien. It's strange to us. It's not been approved by Parliament. And you have the president at the center of this. The president should know better because he is a former member of Parliament. He's a lawyer. He has been a minister. He knows about how these financial approvals go. Once you have made a request to Parliament and it's been approved, if you must vary the amount, if you must spend beyond that, you must come back to Parliament. It's basic. That's what you do. You don't on your own go and vary what Parliament has approved. And then the question we must all be asking is that what is an IMF bailout broke bankrupt country, Ghana, doing with such fantastic budgets? We haven't finished discussing the $8.5 million AFCON budget, which they spent $3 million on just 3 matches. We are not done with that. I'm told that the sports journalists have petitioned the OSP. We are also about to initiate a probe. We're just about to start in Parliament. The Speaker granted our request, and we are just about to start a probe on AFCON. The dust hasn't settled on that. And here we are, 602 million Ghana cedis. A country that says that, a government that says that they don't have money to build for VRA spillage victims. They don't have money to take care of our dialysis patients. They are dying. Now, Confanoche has also warned that their dialysis machines have all broken down. Only one is left, and the government is not replacing them, and that people are dying. Look at the arrears in the system. Who is not owed in this country? From contractors, school feeding caterers, district assembly common fund. I mean, thousands of graduates who are at home because government says they don't have money to engage them, whether they are nurses or doctors or Fund D graduates. So why should we be spending a whopping 602 million Ghana cedis for just 18 days? When you do the breakdown, it means every week they will spend 206 million Ghana cedis. Every day they will be spending 33.4 million Ghana cedis. Incredible. Absolutely mind-boggling. Look, not too long ago, Australia, which has not been shut out of the international financial market, Australia, which has not defaulted on its loans, Australia, which is not carrying out financial haircuts, their president decided that the Commonwealth Games, their economy is not as strong as it used to be when they did the bidding for it. And so they are backing out. They would not organize the games any longer. The monarchy should look for new organizers. That is what responsible leaders do. I recall that not too long ago, President Mahama even advised that if we could negotiate to even reschedule this game or pull out of it, because we are in dire economic straits, and this cannot be a priority. So, with all of this advice, which they have ignored, one would have thought that at least they will be prudent. At least they will operate within parliamentary approvals, within budget, and see what they are doing. See what they intend to spend, $48 million. I mean, clearly Ghana is not broke. Clearly we shouldn't have gone to the IMF. We shouldn't be stressing our senior citizens, forcing them to go and demonstrate at the finance ministry before we pay them their own life savings. We clearly shouldn't be where we are. This is not a broke country. And don't forget that already you have spent, the government has spent $197 million. If you go through the intercepted documents,
yes,
you see the government saying that they have spent $197 million already.
That's far in excess of 100 million Ghana cedis, you said.
Parliament that is 2.4 billion. That one was for the infrastructure.
Okay. So even for that, should they have come to Parliament to vary that expenditure?
Well, for that one, they took a loan for it. So we are going to pay, our children will keep paying for it.
But even loans are approved in Parliament, are they not? Yes. Should Parliament not know what the loan was going to be used for?
Yes, they for that one, they came to Parliament for approval, except that how much they said they will spend, they have exceeded that. So that is a separate matter on its own that we will interrogate later. But after spending all of that, and sometimes we know that there could be variation, price differentials when it comes to this construction, but you need to still come back to Parliament. So we'll have that debate soon. But after all of that expenditure, 2.4 billion, why do you want to vary what Parliament has approved in such an unlawful manner? And the president himself is the one chairing meetings. He is the one at the center. I mean, it's unbelievable. The level of presidential lawlessness is shocking. And he has asked that they write, despite the parliamentary approval of 100 million, they write letters to entities And in your question, you said that, if government doesn't have the money, they are raising funds, what's wrong with it? It is our money. He is targeting SOEs. The letter I put out is targeted at Boss. It was addressed to Boss. Boss is not a private company. It's still the taxpayer who will bear the brunt. It is still our money. Nobody is doing us a favor. We are not getting any charity from outside. Look, even the few private companies they have targeted, look at their profile. They all execute government contracts. What really have they been told? Because it raises fundamental ethical issues. How were they selected? Which contracts are they going to be given that they can get $5 million out of it? How do we then get value for money? So it's still our money, because if it's a government contract, it's not going to be paid by the Akufo-Addo family or the Chebi Mafia, as Dr. Kennedy calls them. You know, it's our money. We are going to pay for it. So why don't you just take cognizance of the current plight of our country, what Ghanaians are going through? Look, childhood vaccines is still an issue. Hospitals without incubators is still an issue. As I speak to you, many public sector workers are up in arms. The value of their income has been eroded. Government is still pleading with them to take it easy on their conditions of service. You remember the lecturers were on strike not too long ago. They are very, very unhappy about how they are being treated. So in the midst of all of these things, why is our government behaving like this? Why? Why? Is this a time for the president to chair unlawful budget review meetings, change what has been approved from 100 million to 602 million, and be instructing that letters should go out? I mean, and look, if you talk to some of the CEOs I've been engaging, the government has not given them a breakdown. This 602 million, what's it going to be used for? As I speak, as a member of Parliament, I don't know the breakdown. I don't know what this 602 million cedis is going to be used for. Nobody has been given a breakdown. And the amount of pressure that they are mounting, because they say that they must raise this money, I mean, it is shocking. Look, under the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government, every opportunity is exploited for create, loot, and share schemes. That's what is going on. And in later series, you'll be seeing some of the contracts they have given out, some of the people who are providing services. You'll be seeing that. Family members who are the center of this loot. It's unacceptable. Totally unconscionable.
Well, I'm wondering, okay, so you, is that to suggest that you have more on this?
Oh, definitely. This is just the beginning.
I see.
This is just the beginning.
Honorable, thank you very much for speaking to us.
You're most welcome, Sona.
Honorable Sammy Okudzeto Ablakwa is Member of Parliament for North Tong, putting across the latest things he's gotten on the government. Now, the understanding is that government is seeking to raise $48 million US. And if you go through the document that is put out, these are the companies that the government is targeting to raise the $48 million as operational cost, operational budget for the All-African Games. $48 million. They've already spent $197 million on the infrastructure that you see.